let's begin with what I will say is the most stunning, because while I said Ole Miss and Florida was a wouldn't it be hilarious moment, you were dealing with a Florida team that had gotten hot, right? It just that you could tell they were building some confidence. Ole Miss coming out of an off week, like maybe they were going to get got in the swamp. That didn't seem so crazy. We had sort of looked at that. Indiana falls short against Ohio State. We will pick apart all the different aspects of that. But I will say the one that I did not see coming is Oklahoma 24, Alabama 3.
I mean,
which part of that did you not see coming more? The Oklahoma 24 or the Alabama 3?
Listen, I'm surprised by both, but I'm not shocked Oklahoma won. I'm surprised that Alabama only had 3 points and looked completely lifeless in the game. Like, if my vision of this upset was going to be like a crazy kind of just things, like not offensive explosion, because Oklahoma's offense isn't that good, but just a situation where more of a 24-23 type thing, where maybe Oklahoma gets a turnover late, or they drive and they get like a game-winning field goal, or just something strange. But for Oklahoma to essentially control that game in the entire second half, because Jalen Milroe started just turning the ball over like crazy, and to completely like pen him in, like that was clearly their game plan. And we have talked about it before with this Alabama team. Jalen Milroe is very good. It's just at times they are way too dependent on Jalen Milroe, and they also have the Jalen Milroe button, especially when they get into big games. But when you get into those big games and you're just used to letting Jalen Milroe do crazy stuff, and then you get into this game, and then Oklahoma's defense is good enough to kind of take Jalen Milroe away.
Yeah.
And the rest of your options are all kind of rusty because they've just been kind of sitting around a little bit, and it's really not there. And just then he throws an interception, then he throws a pick six, and it's then you start seeing the Jalen Milroe of a couple years ago, or not of a couple, but early last year, where he just starts trying to do too much. And you don't want Jalen Milroe trying to make everything happen in one play. And he has a tendency to do that when Alabama's in a bad spot, and it killed him today, man. But kudos to the Oklahoma defense, because they made his life absolute hell. Brent Venables and that staff just game planned him right the hell out of the game.
I had a couple thoughts during this game. Among them was something that I think DK even said. And look, we'll have our own Chipper Jones DK commentary a little bit later on. You got to stick around for that. But he said, I think we've been giving Alabama a lot of credit for these wins without really taking into context who they were playing against. And that especially early, when Alabama just couldn't finish drives, couldn't move the ball, couldn't sustain anything offensively. I mean, the seeds of this loss were planted from the first quarter on.
Mm-hmm.
You could just tell that Oklahoma had Jalen Milroe's number, had the offense's number. But what you did against Missouri and LSU, like, that changed all of our tone about Alabama. But I mean, we'll talk about tomorrow's top 25 later too.
Good luck with that, by the way.
It was tough. It was really tough. But
if I had told you Jackson Arnold was going to throw for 68 yards in this game, how bad did you think Oklahoma loses?
Well, I thought that would be 31-10 Alabama. That's why so much of this to me comes down to Alabama's offense against Oklahoma's defense. But we look at 34-0 against Missouri. We look at 42-13 against LSU. We look at those offensive performances, 486 yards against Missouri, 420 yards against LSU. Jalen Milroe's been a superstar. The run game is rolling, and you just got nothing. You're watching here on the screen, 234 yards of total offense. That is, let me scan real quick, a season low for the Crimson Tide at the absolute worst time, as you were sitting pretty inside the top 10, even with some tiebreaker advantages for the SEC championship game, and you just gave it all away.
And I think the stat was that the 3 points was their fewest in a game since 2004, which, to put that into context, like that was 3 years before they finally even brought in Saban. That was like the Mike Shula era. And remember, Alabama at that time sucked. Well, they didn't suck, but they weren't very good. And there's a reason they went to go get Nick Saban, because it's not like the Mike Shula era was filled with glory. Like, they were a very mid-ass SEC team at the time. So even his last few teams were able to score at least more than 3 points in every single game. So just, yeah, like, oh, you said the timing of this is horrible for Alabama, because I don't want to turn this into like a whole playoff thing all night long. But
Well,
you look
we've
at,
got a lot of time to be able to do the playoff thing, if but
I'm
go ahead.
just saying, like, you looked at all the teams ahead of you and what happened, and like the opportunity that was there. Like, Indiana loses. Georgia looks like whatever the hell Georgia was against UMass, like allowing 21 points to UMass. It's like allowing 100 points to anybody else.
Still doesn't matter, but I hear you.
But so, like, you had a chance to really kind of solidify yourself in the SEC picture, and also in that kind of first round home game if you don't win the SEC picture. And then you go and lay this egg, and now it's, oh my God, are they even going to get in?
They can't help themselves, which, by the way, speaking of Auburn, that game's going to triple overtime. That means we're on to a 2-point off, right?
Yeah.
Too bad you
I
don't
hope
have
it's
Gus
like the
Malzahn.
Illinois Penn State one from a few years ago.
Too bad you don't have Gus Malzahn as your head coach anymore. I'll tell you who's got a notebook full of 2-point plays.
Oh, Hughes got some as well. Don't you worry. Hughes got plenty.
Oh, yeah, Hughes got him too. That's true. We will react to this when we have some. I mean, obviously it's already become a bananas game. My final thought on Alabama is that when you take a step back, it is a flawed roster by Alabama standards. It was a team that I thought could still accomplish Alabama type things, which is being one of the best teams in the entire country. I was relying on the high end talent that you had right here. Not just Jalen Milroe, but Ryan Williams. I shout him out all the time, but I'm not lost. It's not lost on me that when Deontay Lawson left this game with an injury, the defense started giving up a lot more of those Jackson Arnold runs, started like falling apart and giving up more explosive plays. That is not an excuse, but I certainly think it's a reason to why Oklahoma was able to have the offensive success that it had in this game, and why Alabama, things just kind of got away from it. But man, you beat Georgia earlier this year with a 28-point head start and won by 7. And that 28, 1 by 7, that 21-point difference.
You weren't a math major at North Carolina.
No, I didn't take a math class. We talked about that 21 points is probably a little bit more of the difference between Alabama and the best teams in the country.
Yes.
Yeah. Anything else here?
Huge. Like, Oklahoma needed this just for their spirit. Just to get, like, it's been such a craptastic year for them. An awful first season in the SEC. So to get a home win against Alabama to kind of finish it off for you at home, just feel like that's a nice way to end your year. I know there's still next week in a bowl game, but
I think it was incredibly important. The fact that Oklahoma, a proud program, it's like 27 or 28 straight season, maybe 26 straight seasons with the bowl. They're second only to Georgia, but we're talking about quarter century of being bowl eligible every single year. They, coming into the game, they'd won 21 of their last 22 home finales. It was a bananas. There was a bananas Bedlam game. Do you remember it? Like, we were working.
Which one? There's been like 1,000 bananas Bedlam games.
30.
Which is why it's so sad we lost it.
38-35. And it was when they didn't have a Big 12 title game. And so it was like during conference championship Saturday, you just had this crazy Oklahoma State game in like 2015 or 2016. You're bowl eligible. You won your home finale. You salvaged a season that at times looked totally lost. Congrats to Brent Venables. And like you said, that defensive staff, that was absolutely awesome stuff from them.